Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unique Peace. I am Janice. I'm a Reiki Master Teacher and Psychic Medium here on Long Island. Today, I am joined by Minty May, a fellow psychic medium and tarot card puller from the UK, who happens to be joining us in the States today. So, everybody, I would like you to welcome Minty May. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you
And
for having me on your show.
oh, wonderful. I'm so grateful that you are available today.
It's all
Uh,
good.
we're gonna start off by asking you a very interesting question. Give us a little bit of your story, kind of like how you were trained by your grandma. So this is
Mhm.
generational for you, and kind of like we all have, I don't know about you, but I know I do, as a long, windy road of a story of how we got to like, okay, I accept that this is who I am and I've got to share it with the world. So kind of walk us through your story of how your windy road, so to speak.
So it always starts off when I was about 5 years old, and my grandmother was an amazing medium and a witch as well at the same time. And I'm sat in her front room the one day, and she can see who I'm talking to or playing with, and she wanted me to say who it was because she said, "Who am I? Who are you talking to?" And I said there was two gentlemen. And she goes, okay, describe them. And I turned around and said the one's got a bit of a long face like me. The other one was kind of a round head, bald. And apparently I found that highly entertaining at the age of 5. So she realized at that point that I could see spirit. And then she was like, can you tell me who they are? And I turned around and said, well, one is telling me that he's Uncle Jim and the other one's Uncle George. And she realized that I could hear and see spirit because it turned out it was her two brothers and they had died during the Second World War. So from the age of 5, how the hell she ever got me to meditate, I do not know. Because I am like, oh, I'm still like it now. I'm like Zebedee um, on sugar kind of thing. I literally couldn't sit still for great lengths of time. But she would get me to meditate in her back garden. She would get me to listen to nature. Like, can I hear the wind blowing through the trees? Can I hear the bees buzzing around the lavender bushes? And then over time, up until so from the age of 5 through to 13, she taught me how to meditate, how to ground. She would teach me how to work with spirit, and she taught me many, many different variations of tools to use as well. Because she channeled mediumship, but she used tarot cards, she used crystal, she used pendulums. Tea leaves is one of them. There's quite a famous story about tea leaves. But then there was also Ouija boards that we use as well. And over the years, she taught me how to use all the various different items. Um, I was extremely fortunate to have such a loving, caring grandmother who was able to take me under her wing. Because when I was 13 years old, I started working alongside her at psychic fairs and doing people readings professionally. But it was one of those where it was even going through school and growing up. I mean, I can remember being about 7 or 8 years old, and the school had decided that, now bearing in mind, I'll put it into context. I lived in a tiny village. There was 90 children in this school in total. There was only like 3 years or 3 periods of years, from the age of 5 through to, it was like you did 2 years in year one and then so forth. But there's 3 different classes and there's 30 kids in each class. So this is how tiny the village was, wasn't a very big village. And the school had decided that I was too old at the age of around 7 or 8 to still have imaginary friends. So they brought a child psychologist in without my mother knowing. Now, at the time, my parents were getting divorced. I was the first family in the village to actually go through divorce. I mean, this is back in 1980. I'm trying to think. I mean, I was born in 79, 86. I would have been about 7, 86, 88. Um, so it was like really back then. Anyway, the school had brought this child psychologist in because they were concerned that I was having these imaginary friends. Because at lunchtime and stuff, I was kind of a loner, and children would just sort of see me talking to myself. I wasn't talking to myself; I was talking to
Right,
spirit.
right.
I was My grandfather is one of my main spirit guides. from that period, and he still is with me today. My twin sister and other people. I was chatting to them. Um, and I can remember my mum coming into the school to pick me up. Now, my mum didn't know that the school had brought this child psychologist in. So I'd been told to go and wait in the headmaster's office. And then my mum gets called in by one of the other teachers to come to the headmaster's office to pick her up. And it's one of the few times that my mum actually did something right in her life, in all fairness. And she went in and she goes, "Why am I picking my son up from here?" And then this woman stepped forward and goes, "Oh, I'm so and so, doctor, whatever. I'm a child psychologist. And I've been with your son all day. And I just want to say that you've got a perfectly normal, happy little boy." Well, my mum, I can remember, was erupting, going, "I know I've got a perfectly normal, happy little boy." And she goes, "Well, this," and then the headmaster tried to chime in and go, "Well, we've been really concerned that he's talking to himself a lot, or he's got imaginary friends that no one else can seem to see." And she goes, and of course, back then it was really taboo that anyone would talk to spirits or anything like that.
Right.
So,
Right.
of course, she ended up erupting and kicking off this massive argument. And all I can remember now is after about 10 minutes, she's grabbed my hand and said, "We're going home." And the headmaster went, "I think that's the best idea ever." But it was never ever talked about after that, which was quite surreal. But I can remember talking to my spirit guides, and I was saying, like, the children are starting to bully me because of obviously I'm a different, and they went, "We can still hear you even if you talk through your mind." And that was when I then like started to, like, at the age of, like I say, 7 or 8, I would internalize it all. So everyone always saw me in kind of a daydream. Well, I mean, one, I was either in a daydream because that's just my natural state, or I was talking to spirit, or both. So those are kind of the tribulations that I actually went through on that one. But over the years, I don't, funny enough, I was saying this last night. I did a live last night, and there was little details that were coming through on the live last night that there was absolutely no way of me knowing. And it was just giving that validation, confirmation to people that I had their loved ones coming forward and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's what I love about doing the work we do. It's not, "Oh, look at me, look at what I can." It's giving people that comfort and that connection to spirit, and sharing that love and bringing that loved one forward, and sort of saying that's what we are. We're a channel. I always describe myself as like a postman. We just go around delivering
We just
messages.
deliver the mail. We just deliver the mail.
Exactly.
One of my teachers is like, we are not in charge of how the mail is received. We are
Hmm.
responsible for delivering it. And that
Exactly.
was one of the best personal lessons I've had, is because I would, like, if I delivered mail messages that someone didn't like or didn't agree with or didn't want to hear, and I got attacked, I'm like, and I remember distinctly Kim Russo saying, "You are not in charge of how it is received. You are just in charge of delivering it. You are merely the mailman." It's like when we get real
E-
mail in the mail, like you get a bill, you can curse all you want. You still have to pay the bill.
Exactly. Exactly. You can really have a right old complaint about it, but it's not the person that delivered the letter. It's not their fault that you got that bill. It's where it's coming from. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I totally, and that's something I've always said. We're just messengers, and we're able to tap into that frequency. We're able to tap into that energy, and we're able to then be able to bring that message forward for people. And I think in a lot of ways as well, it's like, certainly for me, I mean, people said to me before in the past, "Do you believe in what you do?" I said, "Well, I wouldn't do what I do if I didn't believe in it." But I said,
Exactly.
also, it gives us hope, it gives us comfort that, I mean, probably for X amount of number of years, and there's still people out there that probably still believe this, that once you pass, that's it, it's done and dusted. And it's like, no, that's definitely, I mean, even on a scientific level, we're proved that we're made of energy.
Hmm.
It's proven that energy doesn't disappear, it changes form. And I think it just gives that bit of comfort to go, you know what? Death is just a rebirth. It's a
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah, it is a cycle. It is. And then we choose to come back, and it's like, why do we do this? What am I here again for?
Well, I had a conversation with someone the other day who we both know, and as far as they're concerned, they don't want to come back. And I was like, I think I've already signed up to come back again. It's like, well, you're coming back on your own. And I'm like, okay.
And yeah, I think I have too. I've been told that this is my penultimate lifetime, which means I
Mhm.
gotta do this one more time. Like, okay, is that in writing somewhere? Is that a promise? 'Cause I don't wanna
Is this a contract that can be changed?
Right. Oh, so
No,
as um, so you had that interesting experience as a young age. Now, what's really difficult sometimes as a psychic medium, and you had a very loving and nurturing grandma to help you through it.
mm,
Now, that is not always the case for many psychic mediums or intuitives. So you're navigating life, some of us alone, until a certain point.
mhm. Yeah,
Now, recognizing and knowing you're different when you're young, and then adolescence. And I bring up adolescence because it's a very key, poignant time when everyone is trying to fit in and figure out who they are. Did anything in your journey, did you take any like not wrong turns, but left hand turns or swerves and S's on this journey?
oh, totally, totally. I went on a 20-year detour of where I was supposed to be, and it was like trying to. It took me 20 years to realize that if you're pushing water uphill, you're definitely going the wrong way. But I think it was the stubbornness in me. Um, there was a lot of. I've always. How do I explain it? I've always worked with spirit.
Mhm.
I kind of need to put it into context that my grandmother was such a pivotal point in my life. She wasn't only my grandmother, she was very much my mother. My family, absolutely, I ain't gonna lie, they're god awful. They really are. They'd sell each other for a quid. That's the kind of people they are. Both my parents should never have been parents because they're god awful at being parents. They're god awful at being people, to be perfectly honest with you as well, because all they care about is financial. So it's actually, and the irony is, it's my mum's mum who taught me to do what I do. And it's from her side of the family that it comes through. Now, my mum actually also tried to stop me and my grandmother having time together and tried to stop my grandmother from helping me to develop, to teach, to learn, you know. So there was a lot of resistance right from around about the age of 6 or 7 that my mother really did try to stop me from going down this path. Um, and I've got a twin sister in spirit, but I've also got a sister here. And my mother, then, when my sister was around, it was like she would favor my sister the whole time. So I was always like, I want to spend as much time with my grandmother as I could because that was where I was getting love from. That was where I was being shown, and I loved doing all that work. Going through adolescence, I think one of the things is I've always very fiercely, I can even remember from being like 8 or 9 years old, fiercely remembering I am my own identity. And I've never, I don't know if it's the rebellion in me, I've just never conformed. If there's a sensible rule, I've always got this belief, if there's a sensible rule like don't hurt each other, don't steal from each other, don't kill each other, they're sensible rules. I will follow them. But if someone's going to try and tell me I've only got 20 minutes to have a lunch break, it's like they're going to get a raised eyebrow and told where to go. And I'm a human being and I can make my own decisions and I'm an adult and I will take half an hour. Thank you. You know, I've always been one for breaking rules. But also at the same time, growing up, I was always one for pushing and challenging everything. Um, so the spiritual side has always been there. It's like people say, are you scared of it? Have you um what's the word? It's like I have gone down my own path. I've certainly been looked after. There's been a few times in my certainly teenage years and early 20s where it's like, really shouldn't have got out of that one, but somehow I managed it kind of situation.
There are moments. There are for sure.
There are, but I've always been quite, see, even though I was badly bullied at school, and I was because of like being ginger, butt teeth, kids will pick on
Mhm.
anything in that sense.
They
In a
do.
way, that kind of gave me my resilience. So when I did hit around the age of 12 onwards, I very much have my own identity. And I very much, very quickly learned that this is me, this is who I am, take it or leave it, I don't care. Because I was happy in my own company, I was happy in my own thoughts. And that was kind of one of the strong, and I think I've always had my own unique kind of style or way that I am. Um, and that's something that has grown and grown and grown over the years. But like left turns, I mean, yeah, I question spirit. I mean, I actually threw a gauntlet down to spirit when I was 27. There was a very, very difficult time in my life. And I actually remember saying to spirit, you either give me the answers now or we are done. Once and for all, I said, I will walk away. I am done. But I want the truth. I want the honest truth. And I really did. And I said, if you give me the answers, if you support me in this moment, I will never, ever question you again. They came through. Well, they obviously came through because I still do the work. And that was nearly, it's like 19 years later, and I'm still working with them. So obviously, we didn't fall out that much. But that was probably the most pivotal point, actually, was when I was around 27. But I can remember being like around the ages of around about 17, 18, going through to around about 26. I did kind of hide, or I didn't hide it, but I kept it very quiet about what I did spiritually until I got to know people. Because one of
Mhm.
the things that I kind of realized was certainly growing up, as soon as people, especially back then, I mean, we're talking like early 90s, people are starting to, I'm saying to people, oh, I can see spirit, ghosts, hearing voices. They instantly think you're crazy. And it was
Yeah,
because it was
been
very
there.
taboo back then. So there was that.
Yeah. It's as Kermit the Frog would say, it's not easy being green. And sometimes being is more accepted now, for
Very much so.
sure. I mean, my son is gifted. I know he is, but he's not ready. I don't know if he ever will be.
Hmm.
But like your grandmother, it's just being that encouraging force because, it's while it's more accepted, it's still at those ages. It's very you got people feel they have to be careful because people will think you're crazy or they take advantage.
Yes.
I
And the
had people
taking
take
advantage has been
advantage.
a big one. Yeah, I think the being taken advantage of is a big one. Again, I was saying this to someone the other day, it's like you go to a party and they
Mhm.
hear that you do readings, all of a sudden you start getting hands thrusted in your face and you're like, thanks.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you read palm? And I was like, you got some pretty lines on your hand. I'll become very, very sarcastic. Or I'll be like, what do you do for a living? Oh, you're a car mechanic. I said, well, I'll tell you what, you go and look at my car and I'll do you a palm reading. Oh, well, no, because obviously it's a gift. And it's like, well, it's clearly a gift that you can fix a car.
Right? Welcome, Michael. He's saying,
Hey, dude.
saying hi.
But people do take your advantage, and I think that's probably one of my biggest lessons was um, a lot of my ex-partners. At first, it was like, oh, it's cool, my boyfriend does this, he can do this, and it's like show. But because for me, spirituality is not something you can pick up and put down. It's a way of life.
It's a
It's my life. It's who I am.
yes, yes. It's and
And
you got to protect it.
exactly. And then you start, and then after a few months, you start going out with friends. And because it's such a big, important part of my life, I love talking about the spirituality and I love sharing and I love helping others or answering other people's questions. You get to that point of where it's like, oh, do you have to talk about that again? Or do you have to be this way? Or do you have to do this? And it's like, you're asking me to change who I am. It's
Right.
not going to happen. So there's been people that you walk away from eventually.
Yes. Yes. And on this journey, so you
Mm,
you learned very young and you had a lot of support and then
yep.
you did the I would say normal detour through adolescence where you might even think am I crazy? You might agree with them at times. And then you're like you have that pivotal moment of this is I got to accept this, I got to do this.
Yeah.
It's not going away and I'm either going to go crazy and insane or I'm just going to do what I need to do. And
Yeah,
And when you do the what you're supposed to do, whether it's spirituality, fix cars, electrician, what have you, your life runs smoother.
it
uh,
does. It does.
and so there's got to be some sort of semblance of peace. You finally reach that moment of like, okay, we can, I accept this, I can do this, and I'm just going to run with it. So, what is your personal definition? How do you personally define peace?
I think it's for me, it's always been about finding calm and happiness inside yourself. I'm a big believer in that you've got to be responsible for your own happiness. No one else is you're not responsible for anyone else's happiness, but they're not responsible for yours. And you have to find that happiness inside yourself. And the one moment you start to accept yourself for who you are is a big step into finding that happiness inside yourself. And that can bring the peace in. And it might be that you're going, and I think also the fact that you will get people going, oh, well, why are you doing that? Why don't you get a normal job? Why don't you get a proper job? And it's one of those that it's like, because I don't have to, in that nice sense, I don't have to work. Sorry, excuse me. I don't have to work the 9 to 5. And I always said, I was never going to work in an office because that would have been too stressful. I did do factory work around pubs for X amount of years and betting shops and whatever else. There was always jobs alongside it. But it was when I finally took the leap of faith. And that is when I actually turned around to spirit. And I can remember that probably about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I said to spirit, I said, right, you want me to work for you full time. I said, I live in a world where I kind of need to pay my bills and I need a roof over my head. And I kind of like to eat. And people do prefer to see me in clothes rather than out of them. So I need a way of being able to financially support myself. And I took the leap of faith. And it's been scary at times. There's been a few times where I've like gone into human panic mode and I've gone and got a part-time job for about 2 or 3 months. And then I've realized, why am I doing the part-time job? I don't need the part-time job. So I ended up leaving the part-time job and then coming back into it. But that has brought me in a sense of peace because I know I'm living my life in a true fashion now. I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that in itself does bring you peace. But for me to be able to switch off being out in nature, I mean, I'll bang on about nature till the cows come home. I really, really will. And it's like, I'll bang on about trees or being by the lake or something. And it is that in itself brings you peace. But it's being that it's looking in the mirror and going, you know what, you're all right. Okay, you got a bit of a big nose. Your beard's a bit scruffy looking or something, or there's a few wrinkles around your eyes. But you know what? You're not bad. It's okay. Are you happy? And I think that's the question. Are you happy? And it's like, okay, I don't always know the path or the direction I'm going. Even these last couple of months have been a hell of a roller coaster. And it's like I say to Spirit, I'm like, give me a clue of where I'm going. They're like, nah, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, what do you mean I'll figure it out? You
Nice
give me
answer.
help and answers to help other people. I'm asking you where we're going. They're like, nah, you're okay. And I'm like,
Enjoy the
okay,
adventure.
exactly. And there's times on that adventure where you're like, really? Am I on the right plane? Am I at the right airport? Am I on the right planet? Kind of thing. Was it here I was supposed to be coming to? Seriously? But
Sometimes we all ask
that
that question.
oh, definitely. But that's where you find peace is when you find happiness inside yourself. I hope that answers the question.
It does. You've kind of alluded to some of the ways you find peace. And
Mm.
the next question is, how do you find peace for yourself? How do you bring peace into your life? That some of the ways that you like to. And I know you touched on nature and being out in nature. Are there any other ways that you bring peace to your life?
Very much so. Music is a massive one. I absolutely love my music, I must admit. And there's nothing better than sticking some headphones in your ears and going for that walk and you're just in that moment or seeing a live see even going to like a live gig or a festival. It's like I love doing all of that. Believe it or not, cooking. I actually kind of I love cooking for people. As you kind of experienced
Yes.
a little bit of
Yep.
my cooking. I just make a mess everywhere.
All right.
um, but that in itself as well is another way of where I find people, and I love going to new places. I love going to places I've never been before. Even when I was back in the UK, the idea of jumping on a train, just buying a ticket to see where you end up, and not having a clue where you're going to be staying the night, not having a clue what town you're walking into. And I've walked into some proper strange ones, I won't lie. I mean, I think the biggest adventure definitely has obviously been coming over here, and I've kind of looked around and gone, where the bloody hell am I? What brought me here? Kind of thing. But that's part of the fun. But no, those are things that I actually do enjoy doing. And like I say, being out in nature is always the biggest one. And that's the thing I always say to people. You don't have to get into the countryside. There could be a park, there could be a garden that you can go and enjoy. But yeah.
And how do you bring peace to others?
Oh, I like to think that I can listen, that I listen to other people, or if there's a difficult time for people. I mean, people will come to me, especially for like readings when they're going through a difficult period in their life, whether that's like a relationship breakdown, a job change, house move, these important things that go on in our lives. Um, and it's like sometimes you can't see the path for yourself. So you need to soundboard to someone, and that can help open the path up for that person or give someone another direction. And I like to think that something my grandmother always said to me was someone that comes for a reading should never leave feeling worse than when they turned up. Is in words, they should always go away with hope and direction, or I think hope is the biggest one, and comfort. And that's something that's always been important for me is to make sure that someone doesn't leave worse than when they came. And I think the work that I do does help, or it has helped many, many people. I mean, I'm very fortunate that people will leave me reviews or they'll get back a message and they come back time and time again for readings as well. But even just not, even if I'm not doing a reading, even if it's just like being a friend, or there's been times where I've, like I say, I've done a lot of like, especially around the UK, done a lot of traveling around the UK. I am the sort of person that will just go up to someone and say good morning and start talking randomly to people and saying hello, and they look at me as though I've got two heads. And at first it's like, are you going to mug me? And it's like, no, I'm not going to mug you. I'm just saying good morning. I'm just saying hello. You're all right, mate. I'm just being friendly. It's all good. Back in the UK, it's a bit weird. Actually, over here, people are much more open to people saying hello. So I think that's really quite nice. That's something I've really learned, especially over since the traveling I've done over here. People are much more open, much more friendly, much more smiley. Back home, they're a bit more reserved or a bit more like, oh. Um, but even that in itself, I think um, can bring that can bring that peace for some people. I mean, a very very quick story back home in the UK. I remember waking up one morning and I decided that every person on my way to work, I was going to, or on my way into town, I was going to say hello to. And there was this lady. She must have been late 70s, early 80s. And I'm walking down past the river, and I literally just said, "Good morning, how are you?" And I smiled at her. And she literally dropped her bags of shopping and just started to well up. And I went, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "You're the first person to acknowledge me in 3 weeks and
Oh my
ask how I
goodness.
am." And I was like, wow. And I ended up stopping and chatting to her for about 10, 15 minutes. And she was saying that she would go into like the shops and she would try and ask the person who was serving her, how are they? And she was just getting completely blanked or rebuffed. And for
Hmm.
3 weeks, she lost her partner a couple of years ago. She got no children, so there's no family around her. Her friends had all passed, and she's living in this tiny little flat. And she was just like, my God, she goes, I was getting to the point where I was thinking, truthfully, I don't want to be here because I obviously am invisible to the world. So anyway, we're chattering away, and I tell her, I said, "Well, where are you taking your shopping to?" I said, "Let me help you with your shopping." She goes, "Well, I'm just at the road." She said, "But if you're coming to help me with the shopping, you've got to come in for a drink." I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I helped her back with her shopping, and we ended up I ended up chatting to her for about an hour, hour and a half. I think I spent my time with her. But then what it was, every time I saw her in town, I would always say good morning to her, and her energy, even like a couple of days later when I saw her, I was like, "Good morning." I was like, "How are you?" And she was like, and we had a bit of only like a 5 minute conversation, but I could see her energy had raised as well. And she even turned around and said that she had decided to join a local group for her age group. I don't know if it's like a crafting group or something like that. And the last I heard was she joined this crafting group, but she had made a circle of friends.
That's
And I just
amazing.
think that was absolutely beautiful. But I would hate, I think that's my biggest fear. It's never been about passing or anything like that. It's loneliness.
Yeah, that that is a killer. That can be a very that can lead to that depression and everything you were trying to overcome. Being seen, heard, and valued is very important. So
It is. It is, and we all need each other. You know, we are a species that are supposed to be sociable, supposed to be interactive. I'm not saying you got to like everybody, but just having that compassion for each other, just that morning, how are you? You know, that's what the world needs.
and we're being joined by unhindered soul. That is a beautiful message. I totally agree.
Oh, thank you.
um, so I also like to ask, what's in your toolbox? And so you kind of gave an example. I'm wondering if you can give like another example
Mm.
of that. It's like you encountered either a client or a friend or a guest, and or even a customer at the pub where you need to calm them down or diffuse a situation or raise the energy. What's in your toolbox? What do you have in your toolbox that maybe we can use when it comes to finding peace quickly?
Don't judge. Don't judge a situation. Talk and listen. You know, listening is an important part. There's that great proverb, isn't there? We've got two ears, one mouth. It's for a reason. Listen twice as hard and talk less. And especially like working in the pub trade, as you can imagine, you'd always get people that there would be fights or arguments kicking off left, right. You know, normally on a full moon weekend, and it's a bank holiday weekend for us Brits as well. It's like you could guarantee if there was a full moon bank holiday weekend, I'll be like, right, this is going to be fun.
Usually
And
is.
normally by 6 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, you're just like, and it starts. But that's part and parcel of the fun. But I mean, even for like a great example, it was like just read the energy, just trust the energy. If if you say to someone, "Are you okay?" Most instant response is, "Yeah, I'm fine." Ask them again, they're going to open up because they know that you're going to actually want to listen. But it would be times. One of the things that I was always very good at, like watching people, and I could see where situations, and that is through spirit helping me as well. Don't get me wrong, there's situations that it would be like I'll be pulling a pint or something. They'd be like, watch the guy over in the corner. He's stood by himself by the window. I'm like, he's by himself. What's he going to do? And they're like, just watching. And I'm like, okay. And you could kind of see as the night unfolds that
What
that would might
happens?
could escalate.
Yeah.
But it's like, don't judge a situation, don't judge a person because you don't know what their journey is. You don't know what their path is. And it was like if I was going in to kind of try and diffuse a fight, it would be separate them, but then let them talk. But it would be like, right, you come with me, mate. Come with me. Come and have a chat with me. Come and tell me what's going on. My other colleague that I'd have, I'll be like, you just go and take him round the corner, and just go and listen to him. And that was something I always taught my staff was don't go in like a bull in a china shop unless it's a proper full-on brawl. You don't need to go in like a bull in a china shop kind of thing. Just go in gently and just say, look, lads. And normally it was lads, but it was like, look, lads, calm down. Come with me. Come and have a chat. Come and tell me what it's all about. And that is kind of where you can really then bring a peaceful situation, and you can use that in any scenario. You can use that in any situation. You can see someone maybe on a bus or a train who's not looking well, and just ask them if they're all right. You know, just listen to their story.
That's beautiful. That's one that that hasn't come up before. So I like that, and that it's a new way of
Okay.
looking at it. Is don't judge. It's like 2 ears, 2 eyes, one mouth for a reason. And it's like you watch and observe, and then you listen.
This is it.
And
And it's just reading that energy. It's feeling that energy as well. And, it can be watching a situation or a scenario or seeing someone and just being open. People will read, even if they don't necessarily believe in this, people are always reading energy. And they can tell when someone's being open. They can tell when someone's trying to sell them something. They can tell when there's someone who's not being honest with them. They might question it. Am I thinking that, you know, am I overthinking this? Am I overanalyzing this? But the true hit that really hits you right in here is always going to be the truthful answer.
yep, absolutely, absolutely. The truth holds a certain vibration. You feel the truth.
You do.
Yeah, it's you feel the truth. It's like when something's off. It's like, wait a second, why am I questioning it?
Exactly.
Why am I questioning it? It's kind of like, and we all have a tell. We
We
all
do
have a
indeed.
tell. I mean, it's like it's very funny because I have a very hard time not telling the truth. I feel very out of sync personally,
Hmm.
and those who've been around me for years know my tell even over the phone. So it's like, hmm. It's like, are you all right? No, I'm not. Then I guess I can't use that answer with you because the truth has a certain vibration, it has a certain feel, and we all have those tells.
We do. We do indeed.
So that is it's very good to be non-judgmental in that respect because it's like, okay,
You don't know where someone's journey has taken her. I mean, I've done this myself. It's like people, society. I'm not saying everybody, but there is an element of society that will look at the homeless as though they're like scum, drug addicts, alcoholics, addictions. And it's one of those where it's like, what's brought that addiction on? What is their backstory? What has caused that trauma? Where has that person ended up in the situation they're in? How have they got there? Because it's not happened overnight.
no,
This isn't something they've chosen. This is something that has been a series of events that has brought them to that place. So it would be like, I am the sort of person I try not to give money, but I will be like, do you want a drink? Do you want something to eat? Let me go and get you a sandwich. And then I will always ask him, what's your name? Because
yeah,
identity is so important, and we each have our own identity. But when you sort of like, and I'm quite a big, I mean, I think the thing that really annoys me the most in the world, not going too political or anything, but it's like we got so many abandoned buildings that could be done up into hostels or into a
of
cheap,
course,
affordable accommodation that could help so many people off the street and give them the foot up that they need and giving them the lift up. Sadly, I think the world is changing, that we are wanting to help each other more. And I think this is where spirituality, certainly over the last, I want to say since the pandemic, in all fairness, has really pulled people together. I mean, that was a
together,
massive shift that pulled people together. And it was about lifting and supporting each other. But there is still more that we could do. And I think if there were organizations or corporations that could easily plow a small percentage into doing some of these, and this isn't just like here in the States or the UK, this is globally.
global,
We could actually, no one should ever have to starve. No one should ever have to worry about where they're going to get food or water or basic hygiene or a roof over their head. Should be basics that we should be giving to people. But sadly, we are in the world where those basics aren't always there. But if I can just maybe reach out to that one person and go, mate, here's a sandwich, here's a coffee. What's your name? Are you happy to tell me about your story? How did you end up here. The amount of people where it's like they've either served their country or they were, I mean, there's some people that I met that said they used to have it all and then they lost it because of either a recession or the pandemic or whatever. You know, it's again, don't judge that person on their image, you know. They're just trying to exist like the rest of us in that way.
Beautiful. And as we are kind of wrapping up, is there anything else, that any comments or thoughts on peace itself?
I don't know if it's about thought on peace, but it's a beautiful Chinese proverb that I've always loved. Don't put someone else's candle to make yours shine brighter. Help each other. Just lift and support each other. That's what it's about. It's not about what car you got or what house you live in. Those things aren't important. It's about the person that you are. Find the goodness inside yourself and share that goodness with others. And that will have a ripple effect.
Thank you so much for that. That is a wonderful way of looking at it.
Thank you.
And Unhindered Soul agrees.
I mean, I've been told that I'm a bit of a romanticist or I'm a bit of an ideologist and stuff, but you know, I mean, very quickly, another great story. I did a psychic fair. God, we're going back 20 years ago, and this is when I used to smoke as well. And I remember this one day. I'd had a really good busy day, and this girl just kept coming back up to the table, and she picked up one of my cards. And I could see she was umming and ahhing on whether to come for a reading or not. Anyway, as the day went on, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I went downstairs and lit a fag, and I was smoking a fag outside. Cigarette, sorry.
I knew what you meant, but
Just,
I was going to say here in the States, it's a
I was
cigarette.
going to say, just in case for any of the other American listeners, I had this in the taxi the other day. I was like, saying to the taxi driver, I was like, excuse me, mate, do you smoke? And he's like, no, why? I said, oh, here's a full pack of fags. And he was like, and then Raven had to
Oh,
explain that actually this was, he's English. So there is that. But yeah, so I was smoking a cigarette outside. Anyway, my grandfather popped up and went, see the girl over by the tree. And I turned around and said, yeah. And I goes, she's the one that's been coming over the table. He goes, you need to do her a reading. I said, what? And he goes, look, you've had a good day. This is your way of giving back. And I've always been a firm believer in giving back. So this is why I do like lives on TikTok and stuff and try and do free readings on that. It's my way of giving back. So anyway, I said, okay, no worries. So I went over to her and I could see she was like emotionally upset. And she was with her mum. And I turned around and said, look, I said, don't think I'm being rude. I'm happy to do you a reading today. I said, you've been over to my table 3 or 4 times. Would you like a reading? She goes, I would. She said, but I can't afford it. I said, not asking for payment. I said, let me do you a reading. And she was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. I said, can I just finish my cigarette? I said, we'll go up. And she goes, well, can my mum sit with me? I said, yeah, of course you can. Not a problem at all. Anyway, I finished my cigarette. We go back up. I get a drink. I think I sat with her for nearly 2 hours.
oh wow.
These are one of those. See, I never believe in time readings. If information is supposed to come through, it's going to come through. People will say to me, how long's a reading? I was like, it could be half an hour, it could be 40 minutes, it could be an hour and a half. It varies. But this girl really was having so much going on. And it was one of those where I was with her for 2 hours and we went through tears, laughter, you know, the whole lot. And it was like everything was going on um, in her life. And at the end of it, she just gave me this huge hug. And so did her mum. And I was like, that's cool. 3 weeks later, I'm back working behind a bar on a Thursday night, Friday night. And this girl kept trying to get my attention. And I'm bloody oblivious, you know, I'm just like pouring drinks and I'm in my own bubble kind of thing. Anyway, and it's like she turned around to me and she goes, you don't recognize me, do you? And I went, no, should I? I'm thinking, Christ, hang on a minute. I've been on a night out the last couple of nights and I might have had one too many drinks. And I'm thinking,
What
Did
did
I
I
know
do?
you did? What did I do? Where did I end up? Who was I with? And she goes, "You saw me 3 weeks ago." And then as soon as she said that, it dropped. I went, "You're the one that I've done the reading for." She was like, "Yes." And she looked amazing. I mean, she really did. Her energy was better. She was brighter. She was happier. And she goes, "I've got something here for you, but don't open it until the end of your shift." And she handed me this envelope. I turned and I said, "Okay, thank you." I said, "What would you like to drink?" I got her a drink. And she goes, "I just want you to know the day after my reading, you have changed my life." And I never ever saw her again. I've never ever seen her again. But she wrote this letter of how she had applied to go to uni, she got accepted, she had turned her life around, she was on her career path, and she actually also very kindly left me payment for a reading in the envelope as well. And it was just one of those. And I think I did hear from a friend of mine about 3 or 4 years later, because she had moved away, she'd actually emigrated, but she was ended up running her own business, and she
That's
became really successful.
amazing.
And I was just like, that is so amazing to hear. But yeah, it was just a beautiful moment where she was just like, I mean, she was broken at the time that I saw her, but when she actually came and saw me in that pub that night, she was just like, wow, it was just amazing. It really, really was.
That is amazing. And we have a request. Eh,
I
Are
did
you?
see we had a request, and I have my cards here.
So Minty's gonna pull a card for the collective for us this morning.
That
Let's see
sounds
what
awesome.
comes back.
You know what? I've been told to change my cards, and I hope
Okay,
you don't mind.
don't mind. They're your
And
cards.
Raven has made these oracle decks, and I've been using them recently, and they are beautiful because she's got a Lake of the Ozark one, a Scottish one, and a UFO one, which is really, really cool. So I'm actually going to use one of hers, and we'll have a good old shuffle and see what spirit want us to know today. For the collective, let's have a look. And we're going to go with one of her Scottish cards, which I absolutely, oh, of course it is, which I
Wonderful.
absolutely love. So the card we've got for today is called Protection. Now, I love this card and being by the ocean as well. And it's just remember to look after your own energy. Remember to stand your ground, to speak your mind, to speak your truth, be happy in yourself. And it's about bringing that peace, love, and contentment inside you. Life's not a bed of roses. It really, really isn't. If you were talking to me about 3 weeks ago, I was going through my own human spiral meltdown for about 2 weeks. But it's knowing that things don't always last forever. Things do pass, you know. And it's like sometimes when I'll sit by the river, something I'll always talk about is even though the river is moving slowly, it will pass. And even if it's moving quickly, it will pass.
Mhm.
Kind of ironic that there's a river actually in the picture in the background there, which I love. Um, and it's just remembering to sometimes try and find peace and stillness, just to be sitting still, just to be sitting inside yourself and allow those emotions to come through. I mean, people say to me, you've got to be love and light all the time. Well, no, that's not true because that's
It
not
doesn't work
true
that
human
way at
existence.
all.
I have been the most grumpy, miserable, argumentative sod in the past. And, you know, I can be that difficult. I can be that miserable. And it's emotions that we have to accept. You know, we're given love, but we're also given anger. We're given frustration, but we're given hope. We're given pride. We're given determination and stubbornness. And if we weren't given all these emotions, why should we ignore them? And you sometimes have to acknowledge those emotions and know that they don't last forever. So if you are feeling argumentative or if you are feeling difficult, accept it. Don't try and fight it because the more you fight it, the more you're going to wind yourself up.
Yep.
So the sooner you can try and accept it and then try and music is always a massive one. Use music because that will help break that frequency as well at the same time.
Yes, music is a big way to calm down, and it's a big way to tune into spirit and it is a messenger. Music is a messenger. Totally.
It really is. And you can also use it for inspiration as well. I
Yes.
mean, one of my favorite bands, AC/DC, is like you stick on one of their tracks and you got that drum beat and guitar riff kicking off. It's like it really does kind of, well, it does for me. It fires me and inspires me to maybe start a new project or a new goal or something like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you, Minty, for joining us this morning. I greatly
Well, thank you.
appreciate it.
No, it's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me on your channel. I really am grateful.
Thank you. uh, so, I'm going to put you in the green room. I'll be right back.
Cool. No worries. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you for anyone listening at a later date. If you did like this episode, please like, subscribe. We still have the comments open. Any questions for Minty through the comments, let us know, and we will definitely get them over to Minty and see what he answers. If you want to visit his TikTok or his Facebook page, those are listed in the description. Please like and follow him. He is an awesome soul, and we will see you next week.